A little slow hand here today, Eric Clapton, as we turn the 10 o'clock hour. And as I promised you today, right after 10 o'clock, I have Gary Moore with me in studio. Gary, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, good to have you in here today.
Thanks for inviting me.
Hey, you know what? I'll tell you, I said this the other day to Tom, and I'll say it to you today. First of all, I'm happy that we have two guys who are good fellows, good men, and qualified people that are running for sheriff here this coming fall. And this studio and this radio station will always be open to whichever one of you guys win this November, this election, to be able to help let people know what's going on with the Williams County Sheriff's Office. So first of all, thank you for running, because it's awful hard nowadays to get people to throw their name in any kind of hat. And why you would want a political job nowadays is beyond me at times, Gary. But again, thank you.
Thank you, Jim, and I appreciate that. And you know what? The citizens of Williams County should know what's going on at the sheriff's office level, so I'll look forward to that down the road.
Fantastic. Well, that's good. Let's go back a little bit, because like I said the other day, we have two guys who now have one, Tom, who's now the sheriff. You were acting sheriff for a couple of months. We had a situation. We all know what that was. We needed a person to fill in. The commissioners decided that Gary Moore would be a good guy to throw in that office. Tell me a little bit about your time while you were there.
I had a wonderful time while I was there. It was I tell you, Jim, the 3 months I was there, just under 3 months, it was amazing. The cooperation I had from the gentlemen from out the county, from all the political parties.
Yeah.
It seemed like we united everybody together. We went out and reached base with every police chief in the county. Just talked about different things we can do together to make things better for the county. We have a great base of law enforcement in this county.
Yeah.
And it's too bad we have to have separation amongst us, but one of my big things is to bring everything unified.
Yeah, you didn't have a lot of time, so I guess when you walked into that first day, what was your goal for your 3 months?
You know, the first day I walked in, I just wanted to sit down with each of one of my deputies and talk to them and ask them what they felt we needed to do different. Because I know they had a lot of turmoil there in the past, and I just wanted to bring some unity together amongst the office. So I took time and reached out to each deputy and see what they had to say. I took notes, and I still have every one of those notes.
Okay, all right.
I mean, some guys talked to me for 5 minutes, some guys talked to me for 45 minutes. It just, whatever they wanted to do, I let them have my time.
Yeah, and you think you were successful with the 3 months that you had with what your goals were?
I think we accomplished a lot in just 3 months' time. It was just amazing. And you know, it was just a start. It was just, we just tipped the iceberg a little bit, but there's a lot more to do.
Yeah, yeah. Now there's always been a question right now, obviously, because back in the spring we had a kind of a runoff in the primary, 3 different candidates, and all of them did their thing and went to all the political rallies that they needed to go to, and all the Meet the Candidates night, and did all those types of things. And Gary Moore was nowhere around, and there are still people around this area that question why you weren't the 4th guy in that race.
Well, I should have been, that we wouldn't have this situation now.
Okay.
But sir, what happened was I had a bad accident. I was asked in the spring of last year this year to run as a candidate to be the sheriff. Mm-hmm. And I considered it. But then in August of last year, I had a bad accident. And I had to have several surgeries to get back to normal again, and which I did. So I mean, my concern at that time was, let's get healthy again.
Sure.
So I kind of put the sheriff situation to the backside, and I just wanted to get work on myself and with my family to get healthy again.
Okay. And then when they asked you to be the intern for a while, is that what sparked then your desire to throw your name in the hat, or what?
You know, Jim, I thought it was the grace of God that happened, because, I mean, how many people get the chance that was going to do this, mm-hmm. and for some reason I was knocked out, couldn't do it, and then all of a sudden I got put in this position. So I mean, that was from upper hand, there's no doubt in my mind.
So at that moment then you decided it was time to maybe make this happen.
I felt like the job called me more so than me calling for the job.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. And at that moment, basically, you filled out all the paperwork you needed to?
Yes, sir. We did.
And you're going to be a write-in candidate, which has got to be a difficult thing. There are not many guys who write in or win an election as a write-in candidate.
That is true. I mean, there's not many people who have done that. It's only been done once in the state of Ohio, but I have a great committee, campaign committee, that's really helping me out a lot.
You do have a campaign committee that has a lot of energy. I'll tell you that.
A lot of energy. They're amazing.
I know a lot of your campaign folks, and they are like the Energizer bunnies, man. They can go 24/7.
Yeah.
I don't. Do you have the energy to deal with those folks? I guess is my first question.
You know what? I didn't think I did, but I'm feeding off their energy, and it's really going well.
And I say that because Deb Holbrook is, I'm going to call her out by name. She's almost like a surrogate sister to me. When I first got up here, I ran into the Holbrook family, and I was lucky enough that they kind of adopted me 20 plus years ago. So I've known them all for a long time. And if there's one person that can go any longer and harder than Deb, I don't know. But maybe it's Lisa Stoller or there are other crew members on that campaign. But they're going to run you hard and put you to bed very tired every night, Gary. How's that?
And they do, and I love it for them. It's amazing.
There's no doubt. I can keep you here I'm going to keep you here for 2 breaks because I want to get back in and play a little music too. But I want the first break to talk just a little bit about the things that you saw and you did back when you were the intern that maybe has some direction for you when you become sheriff right now. Okay, what did you see there that would be maybe one of your primary focuses if indeed you do win in the fall?
Well, one of my primary focus is, like I said, I want to get an MOU signed for the county so that we can all help each other. I mean, like I said before, Jim, we have a great law enforcement background throughout this county, not just our office, the sheriff's office, but I mean, all these other departments. The smaller departments have great men working there, and they all have good assets that we can use together. And that's what I want to do. I want to put a plan together that we can use everybody's assets to the best of their abilities.
Very good. Now, the other day you were front page news with the sheriff. I had Tom in here the other day. We got a chance to talk a little bit about that, and I want to get into that as we get back with Gary here in just a minute. But this is also a Classic Hits radio station, and they tell me, and Susie, you met her in the hallway, she says you have to play music, Gary, and you have to play my commercials. And I have to do those 2 things. It's 10 minutes after 10 o'clock. I'm going to keep Gary Moore with me, and in our next break, we're going to get into exactly what happened with he and the sheriff's department and why all of a sudden they were front page news the other day. And we'll get Gary's side of the story when he can. We continue here on the Q 96.5.
Classic hits from 3 decades. This is Q 96.5 WQCT Bryan.
It's the boss here on the Q 96.5 FM, 19 minutes after the hour of 10 o'clock, and I have Gary Moore with me right now. All right, Gary, let's get into the whole incident that happened with that caused the newspaper article the other day. So let's go back and let's find out what happened here. Okay, so set this up for me. What happened?
Okay, Jim. On May 29th, we received a call saying that the Fort Wayne Police Department was running low on some ammunition. What that is, it's a non-lethal type ammunition.
Okay.
And they asked for requests. They couldn't get anything in. They couldn't, with the COVID going on, they were really running short. They were having riots every day. They needed some help.
Okay.
And which was amazing, they reached out to Williams County, but I'm sure they reached out to other counties also.
Sure.
That's what started it.
Okay.
So Randy Moore, the chief of police in Blakesley, said, hey, if you guys donate some ammunition to Fort Wayne, I will be the transporting officer.
Okay, all right.
So
now, Randy's your brother?
Randy is my brother,
right.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep. So what happened was Bryan PD, Montpelier PD, Eden and Edgerton PD, along with the sheriff's office, all packed up their ammunition and gave it to Randy.
Okay.
Everything was documented as far as what was taken out of the ammunition room.
Right.
And it was dated, documented, and Randy signed off on it that he was a transporting officer, that he took it. That's what it was.
Okay.
He actually picked it up on June 1st.
Okay. Sure.
That's what started this. June 9th, I was out of office.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
That's I was going to ask you. I wasn't sure the exact date when you left. So June 9th was your last day.
That's when the intern sheriff took office.
Okay.
And then after that, June 25th is when everything was returned to the sheriff's office.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
So as far as documentation goes with that, I don't know. I was out of office
Sure.
The 9th. So I have no idea what happened on June 25th, but
Sure.
But it was there. Apparently it was there, and I don't know how it all came back to being what it is, but I had nothing to do with it, so I don't understand it.
Now, I guess one of the questions was, and I asked of Tom the other day, okay, and I'll ask you the same question. There obviously doesn't look like there is a honest form, a standard form that you fill out to transfer any kind of goods from the county to another county, another city, another state.
That's
is that correct?
That's
is that
correct.
what you're saying?
We typed up a form as to who picked it up, what time it was picked up, dated it, timed it, what was on the form, what was actually picked up. I mean, everything was accounted for.
Sure. I worked for the city for a long time, and for 12 years, and I realize oftentimes there'll be a form. There was always forms for everything, and there was always signatures for everything, and that's a good thing, because obviously if you're going to send munitions, even though these are riot munitions, these aren't real bullets and real guns and things, but there are property of Williams County, and you're going to send them someplace else. It's good to know that you sent them there and you got a documentation, and to the best of your ability, you had documentation from what you thought.
Oh yes, we have documentation for sure. I mean, that's what we had to do. And it was just kind of nice that Fort Wayne reached out to Williams County, because we've reached out to them several times for the drug dogs, their SWAT team.
Sure.
And we actually had a chance to help them out in a situation where they couldn't get the help. It's kind of an honor to do that.
Sure. So does it seem to make sense to you, and it did the other day to Tom, that maybe that's a form that ought to be put together by the sheriff's department, and now you because of this, I mean, a lot of times you can't pre-think these things, okay? I can't sit here and say, hey, I need this form. If something happens, and then you realize I need that, and then it all of a sudden there's a piece of paperwork that now becomes a standard form, and they use it for 100 years. Yeah. Is that something that you think you need, or do you think the way that you document it would be fine in the future?
Jim, I don't think that's something we need. What we did was we documented it in a proper way.
Okay.
It's up to management to document it when it comes back in, and apparently that wasn't done.
Okay. And because it seems like then it obviously got in the storeroom for a period of time, and then all of a sudden 6 weeks later or a month later, however long that was, I don't have that date in front of me either, but it was at least a month or more later when they decided that this box was here, and it was not documented the way that we thought it was supposed to. Okay.
Right. The documentation was not so much going out as when it was coming back in.
Yeah, and at that point in time, you had gone. At that point, you can't redocument at that point in time.
Right.
So I guess my thought is maybe down the road it would be probably good to have a transfer piece of paper like that would go back and forth, and that would totally eliminate all the questions that they get into. But it doesn't seem like a real major issue, and I don't think Tom thought it was a major issue the other day. Now his comment was that when he went to the commissioners because basically he wanted advice from them. He thought that that's where he ought to go. Those are the bosses. I asked him if he felt like he ought to call you and check up on you, and his comment, quite honestly, was, no, I'm the sheriff, and I felt where I went to was to my boss, was the commission. If you would reverse that whole situation, okay, and it would have been Tom that would have been the interim sheriff, and now you are the temporary sheriff. I don't know how to call you. You're both interim sheriffs, kind of, okay?
Absolutely.
You were the first interim sheriff, and he was the first interim sheriff, and you were the second interim sheriff. How would you have handled that at that point in time?
Well, to be honest with you, the commissioners are not the sheriff's boss.
Okay.
They dictate the money that's allocated to the sheriff's office. The sheriff is appointed.
Okay.
Just like when I was hired.
Sure.
Back in my internship, they appointed me to run the office. That's my job to do that. Okay, whoever is the sheriff should run the office. Mm-hmm. And you don't contact the commissioners on every little thing about in open forum asking for help.
Sure.
Just make a decision, you go with it.
Yeah. So at that point in time, basically, you probably would have put it back into inventory and it had been over and done with.
I would have asked one of my sergeants or lieutenants or somebody that was there, what is this about, and then take care of it. I mean, just show it that's back in the inventory and it's over.
Okay. All right. Well, it seems like it's got blown up entirely, obviously.
Yeah, I agree.
Tom felt the same way, okay, that this thing has got front page news, okay, you got front page pressure, and it's something that all the inventory is back in-house, right?
Everything,
we
as
didn't
far
lose
as I
anything.
know,
Yeah.
everything is back in house.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have mattered if they would have used it; they would have replaced it.
Sure.
So, and we received a nice letter of accommodation from the Fort Wayne Police Department, which we have in our hands. So
Yeah.
that was just nice.
Yeah, well, it is an interesting thing. It is maybe part of the politics of the world that we live in right now, and hopefully we can get past all of that one at the same time and put it behind us. But I just wanted to make sure that we had both people that could tell their story, and I think Ron Osborne did a good job in the paper the other day trying to cover the story that he had. He listed what went out the door and what came back in the door and all those kind of good things. But before we get into what is probably going to be a big race here this fall, okay, like any other race that we had, I wanted to make sure that both guys could come in and kind of tell their story.
And I appreciate
that. You came in today. Yeah.
I appreciate that opportunity. Like I said, there won't be any mudslinging from our side of the campaign.
Yeah.
I made a commitment to several people, and that's where we're going to keep it.
Yeah, sounds good. Have we missed anything there, Gary, that people should know, I think, about this whole incident before we get back into paying the bills for Susie?
No, like I said, this incident, I'm going to give my boast about it right here, and
Okay.
we're done with it. I mean, it's wasting people's time.
Yeah, very good. Gary, I appreciate your time, and I thank you for stopping in and letting people know, what happened from your point of view and why you did what you did. And I also appreciate Tom coming in the other day and also saying what he said. And I think if we can have more of this around our county as we go through the time, it would be a good situation. I guess I do have one question, because I asked this to Tom, and I think it's a fair question to ask as well to you. Even though it was a short amount of time, you made also the comment that basically the commissioners were not your boss, okay, or not your boss.
That's right.
Did you ever get the feeling in those 3 months that they were trying to micromanage you at all, or micromanage the sheriff?
No, sir, I did not. I just they came in a couple different times, which was nice to see what he was doing, and I updated them. But I never reached out to them for anything, so
okay.
It was nice.
I just wanted to say that because that was one of the things on social media that I saw the other day by somebody that said, you know what, doggone it, these commissioners are always micromanaging the sheriff and micromanaging everything else. And Tom had the same comment that you did, okay? But I thought it was oftentimes social media asks questions that you'd be afraid to ask if you were face to face with somebody. And I've always been told that, by gum, if you can't ask the question right to the man's face or the lady's face, then don't ask the question. It's not a question that's worth asking.
Absolutely.
And that was one that I thought got an awful lot of traction on social media. All them darn commissioners, okay? I have nothing against the commissioners. I'd love to have them come in. I'm sure they're probably listening right now. So for all our 3 county commissioners, I will again invite you to come on down to the Q anytime. I love you all. And let's have some conversations about what's going on in the county. And past that, I think why anybody would want to run for election in any office on any level, from my perspective, I don't know. It makes me shake my head right now. But thank you for doing what you're doing, and thank you for your time today.
Not a problem, Jim. I appreciate the opportunity to come in.
Gary Mohre has been our guest here this morning. Hopefully that puts all these questions to rest between the sheriff and the temporary sheriff that we had. And this November, man, you're going to get a chance to vote for one of them to be the next sheriff. It is 10:29. You've got the Q, 96.5 FM.